Yeah, we I don't know how we got this deep into the pod and we ain't talked about the Bucks one bit. But man, if the way Drew Holiday's been playing, because people forget he was bad offensively in the postseason last year. Like he had a couple games, maybe one or two games a series where he played good, but other than that, he was going like 4 for 20 some games. The way he's been playing this season and the way he's also been closing games out, he's had several games over the last month where he's really just turned it up in the fourth quarter. Between him, Middleton, and Giannis, bro, this team just looks scarier by the second, bro. Like we talked about them last week. Like that's the team we're most confident in the Eastern Conference. I think now they're way above the field, man. I
Like,
think
they're losing to the Mavericks right now.
that's
Yeah.
fun. I know Rocco dropped 43 on them the other night. They kind of got blown out, but I ain't worried about all that. What Giannis showed me against Philly and what he showed me against the Nets is that this is the best player in the world right now.
Yep.
Giannis is the
100%.
best player in the NBA. He literally hit a step back three to beat KD's team. Got a game-saving block against Embiid. He just drops like 40 at will. It doesn't even seem like he drops 40. You just like look at the box score and you're like, he has 40. Like it
And
just
look,
it just happens.
and it's no longer him just putting his head down and charging over people. Like he actually kind of got a little bag now. Like he got the turnaround jump shot in the post. He's been shooting that pull-up jump shot nice, at least over the last couple of weeks he has. And then his playmaking is a lot improved. I don't think that gets talked about enough. He's basically averaging like 6 assists a night. The defense, we know what he is defensively. Like that Joel block, he just makes a play like that. It's like every game where it's like, how did he get there? How did he make that play? Dude's incredible, man. And it's hard to even like pick at his game or anything or like throw shade at him because he gets better each year. And, it's like he's probably touching like the surface of how great he's actually going to be, which is scary.
It's just hard to talk about the Bucks because it's like to me and I think to most people they're the favorite, and so it's like, what else really is there to say besides Giannis has kind of cemented himself as the best player in the league? But a lot of people could have made the argument that he was the best player in the league a year ago.
I don't think it was that set though, man. And I even think this season, like there were times where I said Joel looks like the best player on earth right now, and then Jokic is always dominant. Man, KD is like ridiculous. So I don't think it was set, but right now it looks like he's the best player in the world, and it's not as close as maybe people think.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I made a tweet out this week to a similar extent, and I basically just said similar to kind of how LeBron was towards the back end of his time, where he was still considered the best player in the league, where people thought he was, but there was some debate. They weren't sure, and then the playoffs would come around, and he'd cement himself, and then everyone was like, "Okay, LeBron's still the best player in the world." I feel like Giannis is at the start of that stage of where he'll probably be at that for a while now, where he had his very good playoff run last year. He was dominant. The discourse is about him, potential best player in the league. And there was still debate about that throughout the regular season, but I feel like now over the last couple of weeks, he's kind of taken another step forward. He's just locked in that much more as we get closer to the playoffs. So not that he's been truly coasting and not caring throughout the regular season, because we know Giannis is always someone who puts in work and works hard and competes. But I feel like he's just hit that other level over the last couple of weeks now where he's ramping up the playoff time. He's getting ready for those playoff performances and that level of intensity. And in those big matchups, he's just showing another level of talent and athleticism that I feel like no one else in the league just has. And if he has another deep playoff run again this year, another successful playoff run again this year, I think it's just going to further cement that case of Giannis is the best player in the world, and he's proven it in the playoffs, which is what really gets the recognition.
Yeah, that's really what set him above last year was that playoff run. I mean, you drop 50 in a finals game, they finally got to respect you. If you say, "Oh, he just does this one thing," like he's literally in the highest level you can be at the NBA finals, and they still can't stop it. And now he's doing even more than that. Then it's like, I think the main thing is when you're like this season, you can like I've said that different people might be the best player in the world. I think even when LeBron was on top for like 8 years straight, and we knew that LeBron was the best player in the league, there was always that conversation of, "Oh, is Kobe the best player in the world right now? Is Kevin Durant the best player in the world right now? Is Steph Curry the best player in the world right now?" Because they would have stretches where they looked like the best. But who was that consistent guy that always had that argument the whole time? It was LeBron. And that's why everybody said he was the best player in the league over that whole stretch. That's about to be Giannis. Jokic is going to have crazy stretches because his stat sheet is amazing, and I would say his offense is a little bit more flashy, more highlight driven as compared to Giannis, and so he might look better at stretches. But I think Giannis's defense is as good as Jokic's offense. If that's a hot take, tell me, but I think that's true. But then I think Giannis's offense is better than Jokic's defense. Not saying Jokic is a slouch, but Giannis is a very good offensive player now. And so I think that sets him above him. I think he's better than Embiid on both ends. They might have stretches where they look better, but overall, consistently for the next 5 years or so, give me Giannis the best in the league.
It's crazy to think he's only 27. That's
Crazy.
ridiculous. His resume looks like he's like a 15-year vet, man. He's only 27 years old. I guess the question is just like, how long can he keep this up? Like, I wonder how long his prime is going to be. And, you know, I mean, I think a lot of people probably had the notion of, hey, he got that championship last season. That's good. And I feel like a lot of people was like, this Bucks team might not win another one. But right now it's looking like they're ramping it up and they have a chance to win another championship this year, which is crazy to say because 2 years ago the conversation was Giannis just can't get it done in the postseason, man. But now they made the right moves. They're getting healthy at the right time. This team's deadly, and like we said, they are heads and shoulders above every other Eastern Conference team.
Yeah, I honestly, I fully believe that the Suns and the Bucks are just miles ahead, and that should be the likely finals matchup. If either of those teams lose before the finals, I'd be quite surprised personally.
Let me ask you guys while we're on this subject. If they make the finals again and have this rematch, and they both continue to be this good going forward, because I think we've seen that they can be. I think, like we just said, Giannis is only 27. The Suns just had Chris Paul out, and they were still a great team. So we know even if he continues to age and decline, they'll be fine. Could this become an all-time rivalry? Is this the next Cavs-Warriors? Because Cavs-Warriors really just started with them going to back-to-back finals against each other.
It's possible, but I don't think long-term, specifically from the Suns, as CP3 gets older, the Suns would be as much of a lock to get into the finals. Specifically, if you look at a Mavericks team and what they do over the next few years with Luka, a Memphis team that's probably only going to get better. And we still don't know if DeAndre Ayton's back. And if CP3's gone in a couple of years and they don't keep DeAndre Ayton, then the Suns team is going to be in limbo. Sure, they might add pieces around Booker, but we don't really know what that'll look like yet. So it's possible. I think the Bucks are going to have quite a few more appearances before it's all said and done. I think the Celtics are going to be a competing team in that discussion, though. I think the 76ers have a couple of years where they'll be a competing discussion in that. Even the Raptors could have a shot in that, depending on how Scotty Barnes continues to develop. But I think the Suns are a little bit more unsure still, given CP3 is going to be only having a couple more years, most likely. And we don't know what happens with DeAndre Ayton yet. If DeAndre Ayton resigns, that's a different story, because I think once DeAndre Ayton is a true second option, he's a much different and much better player than he is right now because he just gets more opportunity. But until we know that, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't become like a super rivalry, because I like seeing kind of how the league is now. Like, we do, of course, have the two teams that we think look dominant, but it's no guarantee that either one of those teams makes it to the finals. And the thing with the Cavs and Warriors saga, like, we know at the end of the day, it's going to be Cavs Warriors. Like, it will take something crazy to happen for it not to be Cavs and Warriors. So I hope it doesn't get to that point, because I like how the league is right now. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's why watching basketball has been so fun this season, because we really don't know. Like, we can say things on here on the podcast, like we think the Suns are super dominant, but we don't know for sure that they're going to make the finals. We don't know for sure that the Bucks are going to make the finals. So to answer your question, Gabe, I would say I don't think it is going to become a rivalry. And as a basketball fan, I hope it doesn't.
Well, I think I make the comparison because I think the thing where everybody knew it was going to be the Cavs and the Warriors is more in the second half of the rivalry. I think in the first half, you kind of knew one was going to make – well, actually, the first year you might not have really known either. I think you still had faith in the Cavs in 2015, but that Cavs team hadn't made it yet because it was LeBron's first year back. And then especially early in that playoff run with, like, the injuries and things, I think it made it a little bit more uncertain. And then I don't think anybody, like, really expected the Warriors to just go to the finals. They hadn't been yet. They hadn't really proved themselves. And so I think some people might have had some expectations that the Bucks were probably co-favorite last year, I think, with Brooklyn, especially given the injury situation going into the playoffs. It's like by the time those two played each other, I think the Bucks were kind of favored to come out of it.
I thought it was Philly and Brooklyn last year for real. Because Philly was the 1 seed last year. People forget that.
True.
I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of Bucks hype because it was like Giannis 2-time MVP. But either way, I think last year neither team was really like super expected to make it, like overwhelming favorite. And that was really the early part of the Cavs-Warriors rivalry. But then year 2, 73-9 Warriors, and everybody knew what the Cavs team was about. I think then they were both like the expected people to make it. And I think this year, the Suns and the Bucks are the expected people to make it.
I'll say something about this. Both of those teams are relatively small markets, which is a W. You also look at the Grizzlies, who got 55 wins, small market. And then there's like a bunch of other teams are just thriving as small market situations. And I just think that's good for the league, man. It's not like the Knicks and the Lakers and the, big markets that are really super dominant, man. It's a nice variety, a nice mix. And we're talking about the top 2 teams that at least we expect to potentially meet in the finals again. Both small markets, which is just a W, man. I love to see it.